Fire extinguishers. I encourage everyone to have a fire extinguisher. Practice it. I know a lot of kids are afraid of them because the teacher says, don't touch fire extinguisher. You think of it as a grenade. If you touch it, it might blow up. Well, fire extinguishers, for those of age that can use it, it's very simple. Pull the pin, aim, squeeze, and swish, and walk forward. So it's a little acronym we use: PATH, pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire. And so you don't want to aim up at the flames. Put it at the base of the fire. Squeeze the handle down, and sweep, move it back and forth. How long do you think this extinguisher will last? Well, good afternoon, y'all. You know, when I look at firefighting, I kind of look at it like health. I started both of them about the same time, back in the early 1980s, and I continued on, and now I'm the fire chief in our local community and also help folks with health issues. One of the challenges as people move to the country, they're concerned about fire safety, because as a person lives in the city, there's a lot more security feeling with that fire department close to you when you move in the country. I just got back last night from Alaska, and as I was up in one of the fishing villages, the little larger fishing village there in Dillingham had a fire station. But as I went out more into the bush and more into where the little camps were, they had no fire stations. And so that fire truck would have to come all the way from Dillingham all the way up into those little villages. And some villages have no roads. You have to fly in by plane. And so that's a challenge. But in most communities, as we look here, whether you're in Canada or in America or most places, you'll have a fire station near. Well, let's take a look at it. We're going to look at two areas, and let's just take a look. Hold on just a moment, and we'll switch to our screen. All right, so fire safety in the country. And one of the most devastating things which can happen to a family is to have a house fire. They lose their structure, their home, which is their most valued asset they have out there that keeps them dry and has a bed and a place for the family. But also they have their home belongings, their pictures, their Bible, their clothes. And when that's destroyed, they feel naked. And I totally understand how that would be. And what I'm going to look at today is what can we do to help prevent that from happening. I believe in prevention, both in health, as you've heard me talk many times on prevention for health. Let's talk about prevention for your home, for fire safety. When we look at living in the cities, you know, it's crazy. It's a lot of crime. And so, you know, we want to move to the country where it's a total different atmosphere. When we're out in the country, we're out in nature. You don't have that craziness of this city. You can be there with your family and you can enjoy, you know, your family, and you don't have to worry about all those challenges in the city. But in the city, you've got fire stations that may be just a couple blocks from you. The response time is very rapidly. Usually a fire truck in the cities can be to you within 3 to 5 minutes. Also, those guys are usually EMS, they're EMTs, they're paramedics, and boom, they're right on it, and they're able to address that fire. But a challenge we have in the country is, one, we don't have the population density that we can do that, but also the cost. In my local community, just for one fire station, to run a crew in one fire station, you're looking way over $1 million a year just to fund that fire department. That's not getting into your capital equipment of buying fire trucks. A fire truck like this one you see right here today is at least $500,000 to $600,000. If you're looking at a ladder truck, you're way over $1 million. Your air packs are running right now about $9,000 each air pack. The turnouts that we wear from head to boot, you're running right at $3,000 for just a basic turnout, up to $5,000. So a small community, when you move to the community, just does not have the funds to fund a paid fire department. So what we have is we have volunteer fire departments. And that's what I've been involved in the whole time. And it's something that I just enjoy helping my community. We still have to have the same training. We're a lot of training that we have to have. I've got a guy who joined the fire department, just joined it. And we had a search that's going on exactly right now. And I cannot let this new guy go out on the search until he completes basic training before he can even go out onto the field. And that's not even structure fire training. So there's a lot of training that we have to have. So when you go to a local community, just because they're volunteer, doesn't mean they're not trained. Actually, only 6% of the fire departments in the United States are fully paid. Only 6% of the fire departments in the United States are fully paid. Right at 67% are 100% volunteer, and the balance are a combination of volunteer and paid guys. So let's take a look. Country living with structure fire mitigation. The first question is, what is mitigation? So mitigation is the action of reducing the severity, seriousness, or painfulness of fire. The action of reducing the severity, seriousness, or painfulness of fire. I have a few graphs here. Again, coming back from that health side, I like looking at a lot of numbers. Here's your fire incidences by type in the United States from 1980 to 2019. Numbers are usually a few years behind, whether you're looking at healthcare or you're looking at fire science as you deal with the government. These are numbers up to 2019. As you can see, we have your home structure fires is the goldenrod color. We see a significant drop down through until we get to about 2000. And then we see it's kind of flattened out. The two major reasons that we see reductions in home structure fires over this period of time, one is new codes dealing with electrical, and also where we go out into the schools in October and teach children fire prevention. Those electrical codes really happen in those first 20 years. And so we see a tremendous reduction there, but also we're going into those schools. Here's fire deaths by incident type in the United States during that same period of time. Now, what do you think that peak there is? And the structure fires is the maroon, the home structure fires are the green, but what do you think that peak is there on the page? Yes, that's 9/11. That's where we lost over 3,000 people during the Twin Towers. But as we look at even fire deaths, we see fire deaths reducing there over the years, and that's a good thing. That's what I'm after. You know, if I never had to pull out a fire truck to fight a structure fire, I would be perfectly fine with that, because that is my neighbor's home that is on fire. It's my neighbor's car that's on fire, and so that's huge to me. As we see those numbers reduce, average loss per structure fire. This is dollar loss. As you can see, the dollar loss increasing as we have inflation, and we're going to see that even increasing more so now as we see the cost of material cost in building materials. Home, or what we call residential structure fires, the 339,500 home structure fires in 2019 caused 2,770 civilian fire deaths, 12,200 civilian injuries, and $7.8 billion in direct property damage. On average, a home structure fire was reported every 93 seconds. A home fire death occurred every 3 hours and 10 minutes. And a home fire injury occurred every 43 minutes. And I can tell you, as you deal with deaths in structure fires, that's a very difficult thing. I can also tell you that most deaths from structure and fires it is not the fire that killed the folks. It is smoke inhalation. And so as we look today, we're going to take a look at what's really going on here that could help prevent those deaths, because inhalation is the big issue. Top fire causes in home residential fires. just as we look at health, we want to look at root causes. Let's look at root causes here. Top fire causes in home fires: the cooking, heating, electrical, smoking, and candles. According to the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, these are the top causes of home residential fires: cooking, heating, electrical, smoking, and candles. Let's look at cooking. We also call these kitchen fires. Some facts: the leading cause of fires in the kitchen is unattended cooking. Most cooking fires in the home involve the kitchen stove. I remember when I was still in elementary school, and probably around 7th grade, 8th grade. I was over at my friend's house, Jimmy Keller, and we were there playing some game with his brother Bobby and Ricky, and his mom was cooking on the stove and had to run out and grab something for that noon meal to the store and run right back. And I remember we smelled something, and we turned around, and the pot that she was cooking in had flames out of it. Oh, I'd say a good 1.5 feet tall. Well, the boys were scared, so I ran and grabbed the pot, ran, and what do? Put water in it, of course. So I put water in it, flamed up, and it caught the curtains on fire. Then I go running out of the house with the pot, and Jimmy and his brother put the curtain fires out. You don't want to put water on a stove fire, especially if there's oil in it. It can cause a huge issue. But most cooking fires in the home involve the kitchen stove. We were very, very fortunate that it didn't burn the house down or we got hurt. U.S. fire departments respond to an average of 172,900 home fires per year involving cooking equipment. Thanksgiving is the leading day for home fires involving cooking equipment. Well, that makes sense. It's when folks are mostly cooking. It's amazing how many people come in to me with health issues, and I ask them, what do you cook for breakfast? What do you cook for dinner? What do you cook for supper? And they'll tell me, I don't cook at home. We just go out and eat. And so as we look at Christmas, as we look at Thanksgiving, there's a lot more cooking in the kitchen. More than half of civilians injured in home fires involved cooking equipment were hurt while attempting to fight the fire themselves. And that's the challenge there. And, we just think we got to put that fire out. We got to do it. Well, if you're going to put it out, do it right. I can tell you, I did not do it right back in the 1970s when I was trying to put Jimmy's stove out or the pot out. More than half of civilians injured in home fires involving cooking equipment were hurt while attempting to put the fire out themselves. Adults aged 55 or older face a higher risk of cooking fire deaths than other age groups. Children under 5 are more likely to be hurt by touching hot cooking equipment or scalded by hot liquids than by actual fire. Safety considerations for cooking with oil. Now, on my health side, be careful with oil. That's a major cause of diabetes, cardiovascular issues, many health issues, is cooking with too much oil. And it's true if we use oil in some moderation, but cooking with oil, yes, we're a lot more prone to have a fire cooking with oil, but it's also not the healthiest for us also. Always stay in the kitchen when frying on the stove top. So if you're cooking with oil, don't leave the kitchen if you have oil. That's our big issues when we have house fires is where folks will go and they're cooking on the stove. Mom goes outside to hang the clothes up on the line or goes in to wash clothes or goes to do something else. The stove catches on fire and it catches on fire in the room. Use extra caution when cooking with coconut oil. Coconut oil has a lower flash point, so it's more prone to catch on fire than your olive oil and your vegetable oils. Coconut oil, be careful. Definitely do not leave the kitchen if you're using coconut oil and you're cooking with it. Heat oil slowly to a temperature you need for frying or sauteing. So you want to slowly heat it up. Just don't crank it plumb wide open. Cooking safety. Have a fire extinguisher close by in the kitchen, either type K or BC, not an ABC. And for years we used ABCs in the houses, but I would say it was probably around 1990 that we made a change and we no longer could use the A component, because if you have a grease fire and you have the ABC spray on that, that actually can react with the fire and cause more of a fire. So you do not want to use a ABC called a dry chemical, multi-purpose dry chemical extinguisher. Do not use the ABC. You want either a BC or what we now see a lot is a K extinguisher. K stands for kitchen. Have a kids-free zone of at least 3 feet around the stove in areas where hot food or drink is prepared or carried. Be on alert. If you're sleepy or have consumed alcohol, do not use the stove or stovetop. Another problem that we see in fires, I can remember a couple years ago, fire department, which is next to ours, we run mutual aid with them. They run, it's automatic aid. They run automatic aid with us. We run automatic aid with them. I hear tones drop out, and it was for Dario, we call it. And lady calls in and says her stove, that she has a fire in her stove. That's all it was. A fire, or in her oven, a fire in her oven. That's all it was. The whole house burned down. Why? She opened the oven and allowed that fire to come out into the room. If you have an oven fire, close the door and turn this oven off. You're going to contain it that way. You've taken the electric off of it, therefore you're not continuing that heat. You're also closing the door, so you're smothering that oxygen. That fire is going to use up the oxygen. That fire is probably going to go out pretty quickly because you've got to have at least 16% oxygen for fire to sustain. And so by closing that door, you don't have new oxygen. The fire is going to use up the oxygen in the oven, and it's going to go out, or at least contain it there until someone can get there. But do not open that oven door and leave it open. Stay in the kitchen while you're frying, boiling, grilling, or broiling your food. If you leave the kitchen for even a short period of time, turn off the stove. If you're simmering, baking, or roasting food, check it regularly. Remain in the home while food is cooking, and use a timer to remind you that you're cooking. Some people just plumb forget that they're cooking. Keep anything that can catch on fire away from your stovetop. Folks will have, let's say, a kitchen cloth that they may grab things or wipe their hands. That can catch on fire. So keep anything away from the kitchen stovetop or oven that could catch on fire. Another thing people will do is they'll reach in with a hand towel, a dish towel, to pull something out of the oven, and it catches on fire. That you want to use something that's made a mitt that's made for that purpose. I've seen a number of fires over the years where a lady would use a hand towel, reach in there, and that hand towel catches on fire. Don't use pot holders, oven mitts, wooden utensils, food packaging, papers. Yes, you do want to use some type of pot holder, oven mitt to pull it out. Plastic bags, towels, or curtains. You got to be careful if you have curtains near there. Be careful they don't catch on fire. Wear short, close-fitting, or tight-rolled sleeves when cooking. Loose clothing can dangle into the stove burner and catch on fire when it comes in contact with gas flame or electric burner. And what happens if it's attached to that person, the clothing, that person could get burnt pretty bad. So whether they have an apron on and it catches on fire, or they have just loose clothing they're wearing, it catches on fire, good chance that person can easily get burnt. Again, here's the oven fire. If you do have an oven fire, turn it off, keep the door closed to keep the flames from burning you or your clothing and catching your home on fire. After a fire, the oven should be checked and or serviced before used again if it catches on fire. Very similar to if you have a chimney fire. You do not want to use that chimney, that fireplace again, until you've had that chimney inspected. A lot of insurance companies, if you have a house fire and it's involving a stove fire, and then you don't have it visually inspected by some company, a lot of them require that you put a camera down in it and making sure that that chimney's okay, that flue's okay, and you have another fire, the insurance company will not cover it if there's a second fire and you did not have that chimney checked. So very important, if you have a chimney fire, always have it inspected first, because if you have another fire because you could have cracked it and then your house burned down, your insurance company, good chance, will not cover that house fire. Keep an oven mitt and lid nearby when you're cooking. A small grease fire starts in a pan or on the stove. Smother the flames by sliding the lid over the pan. Again, that oven mitt, don't keep it too close to the burner, but have it nearby. So all you have to do is just put that lid over the pan. And what does that do? You're cutting the oxygen off, and you're starving that fire of oxygen. Turn off the burner. Do not move the pan. Just leave it right there. To keep the fire from restarting, leave the lid on the pan until it's completely cool. If you have a stove fire, when in doubt, get out, call the fire department, and what we call get out and stay out. I remember we had a house fire. Oh, it was back in the early 80s and down in Chattanooga. It was on a Friday evening, and the house catches on fire. Mom, dad, and the kids are in the house. So dad does what dad does. He sends mom next door. We didn't have cell phones back then, and the house was on fire, pretty good fire. So he sends mom next door to call the fire department, take the kids. Dad goes out, and then he remembers in the carport he had it was like a 65, 66 Mustang. So he runs back in the house into the kitchen to get the keys, which were hung on a little hook in the kitchen. The house flashed over, and there was fire from his waist to the ceiling. Dad did not make it out alive. And so once you get out, stay out. It's not worth dying over. And people will run back in to get a valuable or whatever. It's just not safe because that smoke can overtake you. And I tell you, the smoke today is much worse than it was when I started back 42 years ago. It's just, you'll go down very, very quickly with that smoke. Open microwave food slowly, away from the face. Hot steam from the container of microwave food or the food itself can cause burns. Never heat a baby bottle in a microwave oven because the heats liquids unevenly. Heat baby bottles in warm water. Treat a burn right away. Put it in cool water. Actually, the best thing I found is if you can put frankincense or, I'm sorry, not frankincense, lavender essential oil is amazing for putting on a burn. Also, helichrysum, another essential oil, is excellent. But if you don't, just use some cool water, and you want to leave it there at least 15 minutes. And then you can cover it with a clean, dry cloth. If the burn is bigger than your fist, or if you have any question, get medical help right away. And from the health side, I would encourage you because what happens is when you get burned, whether it's sunburn or a chemical burn, it keeps penetrating. And actually, they taught us in school, it can penetrate for up to 12 hours. That's why at midnight, 1 o'clock at night, you're cooking. 2 o'clock, you're cooking even worse. It's because it just kept penetrating. So even though you cooled it at first, you may want to come back, cool it, you can put some aloe vera on it. You can grate some potatoes, put some potatoes on there, and that will help with that burn. Think safety. Unplug small appliances when not in use. Unplug that iron. Unplug that microwave. Unplug that whatever that you're not using if it's not in use. The second major cause of structure fires or home residential fires is heating systems. Some facts: heating is the second leading cause of home fires. Get my water here. I hope y'all are sipping on your water. Heating is the second leading cause of home fires and home fire injuries, and the third leading cause of home fire deaths. Local fire departments respond to an estimated average of 48,530 fires involving heating equipment per year here in the United States. These fires result in annual losses of 500 civilian deaths, 1,350 civilian injuries, and $1.1 billion in direct property damage. Half of the home heating fires are reported during the months of December, January, and February. So be on alert during those months because there's a higher probability. Install wood burning stoves following the manufacturer's instructions or have a professional do the installation. I remember one of the first fires I went to when I started firefighting. I went into this little house in Ottawa, and we went into the dining room area, and there was a wood stove. And what they had done is taken the window out and put a piece of plywood. And then they cut a hole in the plywood just large enough for the stove pipe to go out. And they had a fire. And it just makes horse sense. The stove flue pipe was hot. It gets red hot, caught the wood on fire. And so follow the instruction. For most of us today, we say, no way. But people do make decisions that, and if they'll follow those manufacturer instructions or have a professional do it, it can save your life or your children's life. After fuel burning equipment, let's see, all fuel burning equipment should be vented to the outside to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. Have heating equipment and chimneys cleaned and inspected every year by a qualified professional. And you'll find some will actually recommend cleaning twice a year, depending on where you are, depending on what wood you're burning, what the material you're burning. Because if it's a more sappy wood, like out west, where you don't have those hardwoods, you're more sappy and you're more prone to a chimney fire. And so cleaning that chimney twice a year in the fall and the spring is a lot safer. Here in the East Coast, where we have a lot of hardwoods, we don't have as much sappiness, but yet we have people who are burning pine. And you're just a lot more prone to a chimney fire when you have that sappy wood. So you want to at least clean it once a year. And if you're using sappy wood, you want it twice a year. Install and maintain CO alarms to avoid the risk of CO poisoning. If you smell gas in your house, if you smell gas in your gas heater, do not light the appliance. Leave the home immediately and call your local fire department and gas company. Very, very important. Keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet, 1 meter away from heating equipment, like the furnace, fireplace, wood stove, or portable space heaters. Now, one of the problems that we used to see a lot, and that I don't see as much anymore, do you remember those bathroom heaters that were behind the bathroom door? And so we go in the bathroom, close the door, and we turn that wall heater on. It was a flush mount into the wall, and it heated the bathroom very well. The problem was, if you left the bathroom and opened that door plumb open against that heater, the door would catch on fire. Or a problem that we have over the years is where people move things around in the wintertime versus the summertime. So when spring comes, mom will move things around, and she might move this piece of equipment, piece of furniture or chair or whatever around just to make it a little, because they had to put it in a certain place during the winter based on where the heat was. And so during the summer, she can move around wherever she wants to. The problem is when fall comes and she forgets that she has the chair or the divan, the couch, or some piece of furniture in front of that heater or too close to that heater, the heat turns on and it catches that furniture on fire. So be real careful if you move your furniture around in the summer months. Have a 3 foot, 1 meter kid zone around open fires and space heaters. Never use your oven to heat your home. And we see that a lot in this area where folks, let's say their electricity's turned off because they didn't have enough money to pay their electric bill. So they're having to heat their house with a gas cook stove. The stove in the kitchen is gas. And so they're heating their house with that. And so they have the door open and it's wide open. Or let's say they don't have a good heating system and it's really cold. To get extra heat, they'll open it up and have the stove to give them extra heat. Or maybe the power goes out. And so they'll turn the stove on and open the oven door. That it just increases your risk of a house fire pretty significantly. Have a qualified professional install stationary space heating equipment, wall heaters, or central heating equipment according to the local codes and manufacturer's instructions. One of the problems we don't see today that we saw back probably 30 years ago, 20 years ago, is these heaters, that kerosene heaters that you would set in the living room or in the hallway just to give extra heat. And yes, you can, when that thing turns over, that heater turns over, it's supposed to have a trip that turns, that causes the wick to go down and put the fire out. It can still be really hot. You can have fuel spillage, or before it plumb quits, you can have a fire. And so though it's supposed to be safer, it's still a risk. Be careful putting those kind of heaters in the house. Also, that type of heater is not vented to the outside, and it's not very healthy to breathe at. Remember to turn portable heaters off when leaving the room or going to bed. Always check for furniture or other items which may have been moved in front of heaters during the summer before turning them on. And again, that's a reminder. Be sure to check for furniture that may have been put in front of a heater. The other problem that we see is where you may have dust build up in the summer. The heater comes on and that dust will catch on fire. Always use the right kind of fuel specified by the manufacturer for burning space heaters. Don't put gasoline in them. Make sure the fireplace has a sturdy screen to stop sparks from flying into the room. And another item that we've seen is where people will, let's say they'll burn their garbage in the fireplace. And so there may have thrown some things in there and something kind of bursts, and it may be some type of a container that has a water bottle or something, and that has just air in it. Well, that when it pops like that, it throws some sparks out of the fireplace onto a rug and can cause a fire. Ashes should be cool before putting them in a metal container. Keep the container at a safe distance away from your home. I remember my neighbor one time, he used to take ashes, and he went and took his ashes from the fireplace and put them on his garden. Well, that's a good thing. The problem was they were still pretty hot. The garden caught on fire. Then we had a wildland fire. So be careful with those ashes. Make sure they're plumb cool before you go putting them. The other problem is people will take ashes out of their wood stove or the fireplace, and they'll put them out on the porch, a wooden porch. They're still really hot, and we've seen fires from that. Test smoke alarms at least once a month with smoke, or a smoke. They have cans that say smoke. Here's why I say this. When you push the button on a smoke detector and the alarm goes off, that only means the current going to the alarm works. It does not tell you whether or not the part of the smoke detector that detects either smoke or there's two types. I forgot what the other type is called, but anyway, it's not testing that part of the device. It's only testing whether or not the buzzer works. So you want to test it with some type of, and you can buy a can of smoke and do that, or you can take I've taken a candle and blow it out and put the candle up there, and the smoke ferment should set off the smoke detector. The next is electrical. So we had cooking, we had heating, now we're at electrical. In 2018, wiring, lighting, cords, and plugs were involved in roughly 34,000 reported home structure fires. These incidents caused an approximately 470 deaths, 1,100 injuries, $1.4 billion in direct property cost. Electrical fires are what I see a lot of. Yes, I see those other issues, but a lot of times electrical is what I'm dealing with. Call a qualified electrician or your landlord if you have frequent problems with blowing fuses or tripping circuit breakers. It could be that the fuse or the breaker is going bad, but it also could mean you've got too much resistance there, and it then could cause the fire. A tingling feeling when you touch an electrical appliance, discolored or warm wall outlets. And outlet fires, I see a lot of outlet fires. Outlets just wear out. and we see outlet fires, switch fires. A burning or rubbery smell coming from an appliance. I remember one time I had this guy come and he wanted to sell me some, remember, those little blenders they call bullet blenders? And he wanted me to sell them for him. And I looked at it, and that cord looked really cheesy. I mean, it looked really dangerous. It really did. And so I told him, I said, I'm really not interested in selling this product because I'm afraid it could cause a fire. And it doesn't have a UL label. And he says, what's UL label? And I said, it's a little sticker that says UL for United Laboratories. It means it's been tested. And this cord can handle the amount of amps that this little motor will pull. He said, no problem, buy sticker. Well, that's the mentality of some people sometimes. Just buy sticker. And so make sure that you have quality equipment that you're putting in the house. And if you're not using it, unplug it. Flickering or dimming lights, sparks from an outlet, that's definitely, or buzzing from an outlet. Safety tips: have all electrical work done by a qualified electrician. When you are buying or remodeling a home, have it inspected by a qualified private inspector or in accordance with local requirements. Only use one heat-producing appliance, such as a coffee maker, toaster, space heater, etc., plugged into a receptacle outlet at a time. And it's not just that receptacle outlet, whatever, because you could have other outlets that are on that same breaker. I would also be careful on that same breaker. And that's why in the kitchen, we see multiple breakers in the kitchen so you can plug in various appliances, because you don't want more than one appliance on a breaker at a time. Major appliances: refrigerators, dryers, washers, stoves, air conditioners, microwave ovens, etc., should be plugged directly into a wall receptacle outlet. Extension cords and plug strips should not be used for these. And a lot of times people will actually have a designated breaker for each one of these because it's just a lot safer, because these guys can draw a lot of amperage. Arc fault circuit interrupters, or AFCIs, shut off electricity when a dangerous condition occurs. Consider having them installed in your home. And in some areas, that is the code. Use a light bulb with the right number of watts. There should be a sticker that indicates the right number of watts. And we don't have this problem today that we used to, because we have the LED lights. But before, when we had incandescent bulbs, you may have a lamp that had a little sticker in it that said 60 watts. And if you put more than, say, a 75 or 100 watt bulb in there, the wiring, it wasn't big enough wiring to handle more than 60 watts, and it could cause a fire. Also, the shade could also, with the heat of more than 60 watts, cause the shade to catch on fire. Use ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, to reduce the risk of shock. GFCIs shut off an electrical circuit when it becomes a shock hazard. They should be installed inside the home in bathrooms. They should be in all bathrooms, kitchens, garages, and basements. That's because you have the concrete floor. All outdoor receptacles should also be GFCI protected. And that's a good idea. It really is. Test these receptacles once a month according to the manufacturer's recommendations. You do not need a flame to start a fire. Fire can start when heat builds up near anything that burns. This can happen when a hot light bulb is near things that burn, such as a cloth or paper or a cord that has been placed under the carpet. And that's one that we used to see a lot when I first started firefighting. What people would do is they would have extension cords, because the old homes did not have a lot of receptacles. And as we have matured and using electricity, we have more need for receptacles. And so back in the earlier years, people used a lot of extension cords. So to keep from tripping over the extension cords, they would put, say, a throw rug over top the extension cord to keep you from tripping. The problem is, as a person walked on that, and causing the chafing back and forth, you could wear down the outer protectant on that extension cord to where your wires became bare, could cause a short, an opening, cause a short, and now you have a rug. You've got a flammable material here that can catch on fire. Check electrical cords to make sure they are not running across doorways or under carpets. Again, extension cords are intended for temporary use. Have a qualified electrician. Add more receptacles, outlets, so you don't have to use extension cords. I know a lot of like our local conference for our church. When I go and do the annual inspection, I have to identify there are no extension cords used in the church because our insurance doesn't allow us to use extension cords because it just increases your risk of a fire. So we looked at cooking, heating, electrical. Now we're looking at smoking. I don't see as much smoking fires as I used to. That's cigarettes, pipes, cigars. They are, though, still out there. But as we see a reduction in smokers, I do see less of that. Facts: smoking materials include cigarettes, pipes, cigars. Smoking materials are the leading cause of fire deaths. Smoking materials are the leading cause of fire deaths. Why do you think? People fall asleep, whether it's on the couch, the chair, the bed, there that cigarette is, the material starts burning right there next to them. Smoking material fires are preventable, just like drunk driving is preventable. Don't get in a car drunk. Do not smoke in the house is your best way. Best way is you don't smoke at all. But if you're going to smoke, smoke out on the porch, somewhere else. Don't smoke in the house. And by all means, don't smoke and have the possibility of falling asleep. Smoking fire start an estimated 17,200 home structure fires reported to the U.S. fire departments each year. Smoking fires cause an average of 570 deaths a year, 1,140 injuries, $426 million in direct property damage. The risk of dying in a home structure fire caused by smoking materials raises with age, and that just makes sense. 1 out of 4, 25% fatal victims of smoking material fire is not the smoker whose cigarette started the fire. So it could be a child burns, a spouse burns. So 25% of the fatal deaths is someone else in that house, not the smoker. Electronic cigarettes. Fires have occurred while e-cigarettes were being used, the battery was being charged, or the device was being transported. I know when I was flying, I flew this past week and got back last night. Every time I checked my luggage, they wanted to know, do you have electronic cigarettes in your baggage? Battery failures have led to small explosions. Never leave charging e-cigarettes unattended. E-cigarettes should be used with caution. I recommend don't use them at all. Smoking safety from a health standpoint. If you smoke, use only fire-safe cigarettes. If you smoke, smoke outside. Most deaths result from fires that start in living rooms, family rooms, dens, bedrooms. And that's usually what we see. A person falls asleep and while they're watching television or laying there in the bed, maybe reading a book. Keep cigarettes, lighters, matches, and other smoking materials up high out of reach of children in a locked cabinet. For maximum fire safety and everyone's health in the home, resist smoking. Put it out. Use a deep, sturdy ashtray and place it away from anything that can burn. So make sure you have a good piece of equipment to put the ashes. Do not discard cigarettes in vegetation, such as mulch, potted plants, landscaping, peat moss, or dried grasses, or leaves, or other things that could ignite easily. You know, folks will just flick their cigarette out and into these areas, or lay it on the side of a planter and think they're going to come back and finish the cigarette when they come back outside, and it falls into the plant material. Before you throw away butts, ashes, make sure they're out, and dousing in water or sand is the best way to do that. Smoking and medical oxygen. This is where we have an issue. Never smoke and never allow anyone to smoke where medical oxygen is used. Now, people say, well, oxygen is explosive. It's not. Oxygen is not explosive. It's an accelerant. And so what happens, it's like, have you ever started a campfire and you blow on it, or started your fire in your stove and you blow on it, wood stove? Well, that's what happens. Now you have 100% oxygen blowing on that, and so it just accelerates the fire. Is what it does. I remember there's a down outside of Chattanooga years ago. There was a hospital there, and there's a patient who wanted to smoke. The patient was a quadriplegic, or I'm sorry, he was paraplegic. And no, I take it back. He was a quadriplegic, and he had oxygen on. This orderly went and put a cigarette in this guy's mouth and lit it, and was going to stand there, but had to step out for something. Thought he'd make it back before there was any problems. Well, just doing that's a problem. But what happened is the oxygen from his nasal cannula caught it on fire, fell, and the man actually died there at the hospital. The patient did. Medical oxygen can cause materials to ignite more easily and make fires burn at a faster rate than normal. It can make an existing fire burn faster and hotter. And that's just horse sense. If you blow on a fire, it's going to get bigger. It's going to spread faster, just like the wind on a grass fire. But now you have 100% oxygen. The last one that we're going to look at here is candles. Facts: U.S. fire departments respond to an estimated 7,400 home structure fires that were started by candles per year. These fires caused an annual average of 90 deaths, 670 injuries, $291 million in direct property cost. Years ago, this is how a lot of fires were caused, by candles and lanterns. Remember Mrs. O'Reilly? Supposedly her cow kicked over the lamp when she was milking the cow in Chicago, and that caused the big Chicago fire. Well, we've gone to electricity, so we don't have the candle fires and lamp fires that we used to have, but we still see candle use. We have folks that maybe when there's a storm and their electricity goes out, or if a person doesn't have the money to pay for the electricity, they'll use candles to light. Or a person who's off the grid. Sometimes they'll just use candles, or it's a little romantic and folks will use candles. And so candles are an open flame. And so you want to be careful. An average of 20 home candle fires are reported each day. An average of 20 home candle fires are reported every day in the United States. Christmas is the peak day for candle fires. That makes sense. Candle fires peak in December and January. 3 of every 5 candle fires start when things that can burn are too close to the candle. More than 33% of home candle fires start in the bedroom. Folks want it a little romantic. They put candles in there, and the candle, they'll fall asleep. That it gets bumped, it falls over, or there's some material that something that can catch on fire near it. Could be a curtain, could be whatever that's near it, and that can catch on fire. Candle with care. Blow out all candles when you leave the room or go to bed. Avoid the use of candles in the bedroom and other areas where people may fall asleep. I remember my mom used to always light candles on Friday night, and I loved candles, and I still do. I like candles Friday evening, but be cautious. You do not want to leave them, or you do not want to fall asleep. Keep candles at least 1 foot away from anything which can burn. Think about using flameless candles in your home. They look and smell like real candles. If you do burn candles, make sure that you use candle holders that are sturdy and won't tip over easily. Put candle holders on a sturdy, uncluttered surface that's not half on something and on some other papers, and it's not plumb flat. Light candles carefully. Keep your hair and any loose clothing away from the flame. Do not burn a candle all the way down. Put it out before it gets too close to the holder or container. Never use a candle if oxygen is in use in the home. Have flashlights or battery-powered lighting ready to use during a power outage. Never use candles. Well, that's going to be a whole lot safer. I'm not going to say that I never use candles, but if you do it, use candles safe. Here's some fire safety rules: stop, drop, and roll. So as I go into the school system and I teach fire prevention every year, I get the kids and I have them stop, drop, and roll. One of the problems that came out a couple years ago with our fire marshal in the state of Tennessee, we were having cases where there's a house fire, and the kids, they learned here in fire prevention, stop, drop, and roll, and there's a fire. Well, they were stopping, dropping, and rolling in the house and not getting out of the house where they weren't on fire, but they thought there was a fire. They need to stop, drop, and roll. No, get out of the house. Stay out of the house. If you do catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll. Number 2, get out, stay out. And again, you're getting that, whatever else you want. Stay out. You can't replace a human. One of the problems, and we'll talk about in just a moment, is where one of the big problems is folks running out of the house. Mom and dad don't know where one of the kids are, and they run back in the house looking for the child, and they didn't have a zone that we'll talk about. And the child was at the neighbor's house. They were hiding under the car. They were hiding in the tree house. They were hiding in the dog house, whatever. And parents go back in and they die in the fire. The next one is fall and crawl. Very, very important. Several things. Get down low and go, go, go. The smoke, literally, it's worse than it used to be. And so just one good breath of that smoke can cause you to where you can't even think right. Gets in your eyes. You now can't even open your eyes to see. Stay down low. The temperature is not as hot. Also, the potential of a flashover is much higher if you get up and crawl. I encourage people to get down and crawl on your hands and knees. Don't just just scoot along. Be careful. Don't be up high. Next one is fill the door before opening. You want to fill the door, the wooden door. Also, I encourage you to fill the handle, the metal handle. Transfers heat. Now, the heat is going to be hotter at the top of the door. So if you can, fill the top of the door, but feeling that handle is very, very important. And if it's hot, go out another route. And we'll talk about secondary routes. But don't open that door, because if you open that door, you could have fire, smoke, and now you have some significant challenges. Call 911. I would rather have a call where someone says, I smell smoke in the house. And we get those. That's a common call. We smell smoke in the house, or my smoke detector's going off and I don't know what's going on. Fine, call me. Call 911. Let us know. I would rather come and check it out and not be a problem than to come and have to take your child out of the house dead. It's this real stuff. And I encourage you to take it seriously. It is very, very sad for me to have to go in house fires, and I've done it numerous times where people did not make it out of the house and they've died. Plan and practice an escape. And this is something I do each year with the kids. Every single one from kindergarten to 8th grade, every child has to take one of these homes and make this. You've got in your bedrooms, you got to have a primary and secondary escape. Try the doorway first. That's the red. That's your primary. If you can't, go out the window. If you're second story, look at some ladders that you can go down or something. But you've got to be able to get at a secondary of each room, because that fire may be between you. It may be in the staircase and you can't go down the stairs. It may be, look here, you've got the living room. The kitchen and the living room could be on fire, and that's your door to escape. How are you going to get out? you're going to have to go out a window. And I encourage families to do a drill once a month where dad will blow a whistle and everybody just snaps to it. They can go out the primary way. And then dad blows a whistle and he says, secondary escape path. And everybody has to take the secondary escape path. Very, very important. Then you got to have a meeting place. Remember the kids who left the house and they're hiding in the dog house or in the tree house or at the, ran to the neighbor's house. Have a meeting place, and mom and dad go in. Well, you need a meeting place. It needs to be something that doesn't move, not the car, because the car can move. You want the big oak tree or the swing set. Also, you want it in an area that's not in the way when the fire department comes in, that, somewhere kind of out of the way. But everybody knows we have to go meet at the oak tree. And so that, y'all, I'm telling you, this is so, so important. Close the door. This is something that's becoming more and more popular. And we see it as firefighters. I'll go into a house that's burnt pretty bad, but one of the bedrooms, the door's closed. And we've knocked the fire down, and it didn't burn the whole house down, but we have significant fire damage. And this bedroom and that bedroom and the kitchen, the living room, but one of the bedroom doors was closed. After we put the fire out, we'll go and open that door, and that room's perfectly fine. You might have some smoke, but that room is fine. And so you want to close that door if you're not at home. You want to close that door when you're asleep. That protects you significantly. Can reduce fire growth and spread, limits damage to your home and buildings, saves lives. Remember to close the bedroom door when you're sleeping. Close doors behind you when you escape a room or building that is on fire. And that's what people do. They'll run out of the house and leave the house door open. And what does that do? It allows a lot of air to come in and fuel that fire. And so always shut the door behind you if you can. If it means something's going to happen to you, get out of the house and don't worry about the house, worry about you. But if you can, close that door. Keep fire doors closed. Never wedge, disable, or prop open fire doors. Fire extinguishers. I encourage everyone to have a fire extinguisher. Practice it. I know a lot of kids are afraid of them because the teacher says, don't touch fire extinguisher. You think of it as a grenade. If you touch it, it might blow up. Well, fire extinguishers, for those of age that can use it, it's very simple. Pull the pin, aim, squeeze, and swish, and walk forward. So it's a little acronym we use: path, pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire. And so you don't want to aim up at the flames. Put it at the base of the fire. Squeeze the handle down, and sweep, move it back and forth. How long do you think this extinguisher will last? You're going to get lucky if you get 30 seconds. You're looking at 20 to 30 seconds. That's all you have. And so it's not going to last a long time. Use it wisely and get out. Pull the pin, aim, squeeze, sweep. Smoke detectors. Test smoke detectors before you install them. I remember one Christmas, I went and bought all my family smoke detectors back when I first started firefighting. And I went to a store in Chattanooga and I asked the manager, can I go out and test these smoke detectors? And he gave me a hard time. And I said, well, I'm a firefighter. I go into fires and smoke detectors don't work. So I was buying quite a few of them. I think it was 18 of them I bought for family members. Do you know that over half of them did not work? He was surprised. And so test the smoke detector with smoke before you install them. We talked about testing its smoke on a monthly basis. And if it hasn't, most of the smoke detectors today have a 10-year battery. So you don't have to worry about changing the battery every fall when the time changes. Well, that's changing in America now. We're not going to do that anymore, I understand. But the older smoke detectors, we still have to change the batteries. But the new ones, they pretty well have a 10-year battery in them. Don't put the smoke detector in the kitchen. We used to. Well, what happens? Well, what happens is when dad burns the toast or mom burns whatever, it goes off. And so they just unplug it. Don't even put it in the kitchen. Put it outside the kitchen. The other is that we've had a lot of problems with, and I remember years ago, more than we see today, is when we had the calculators that used a 9-volt battery and for school. And Johnny needed it for study, for his homework last night. And so where's one? He pulls out a smoke detector and puts it in his calculator. I have never, now I started firefighting 42 years ago. I have never been to a house fire where someone died and they had a working smoke detector. Now I have been to house fires that have smoke detectors, but the batteries may be gone and they weren't working. Recommended locations. You want a smoke detector in every room and outside each living area. You want a CO detector in the hallway on all levels. Your living room, you want a smoke detector and a fire extinguisher. You want a fire extinguisher upstairs in the hallway. You want a fire extinguisher in the kitchen. In the basement, you want a smoke detector, a fire extinguisher, and a CO2. And then in the garage, you want a, if it's separate over there, a fire extinguisher. We have just a few moments. Let's take a look and see what we can do with living in the country with wildland mitigation. And as you move into the country, you have the potential possibly of wildland fires. So let's see what we can do here. This is a house where the woods are pretty close and that fire can come pretty close up to the house. And that's what you can have. That wildland fire could come up and end up burning your house. This house, do you think that has good mitigation? It's pretty, it's beautiful, but you're in trouble if there's a wildland fire in your neck of the woods. And this is another house. It's really pretty, it's nice, but if there's a wildland fire, you're in trouble. Here's another one. It's pretty, it's beautiful, but it's too close and you're going to have fire come up too close to that house. So what is wildfire mitigation? Wildfire mitigation is the implementation of a variety of precautionary measures to protect a building from wildland or wildfire. It is a preventable tactic used to mitigate risk of fire for your home. So it's prevention. It's just like prevention, you drink water. Prevention, you get your sleep at night. Prevention, you exercise. Prevention, you eat a healthy diet. This is prevention to keep your house from burning. And you don't have anything that can keep that wildland fire from starting 2 miles away from your house, or maybe your next door neighbor was burning stuff. And here it comes, it's coming towards your house. You didn't have a thing to do with that, but you can put a perimeter around your home. You can have a roof and siding that is not going to be as flammable. It is a preventive tactic used to mitigate risk of fire for your home. Homes in dry areas or heavy forest areas should be inspected regularly and maintained appropriately. Some of the measures are designed to modify the forest environment surrounding the structure, while others focus on modifying the construction of a structure itself by changing its location or improving its ability to withstand a wildfire without being dependent upon fire suppression resources. Again, look at your roof. Let me see if I can look real quick here. Take a look at that house. Is that house at risk? Absolutely. You've got wood shingles and you've got wood siding. Definitely. And you've got that wooden porch there. You got wooden eaves. That house is definitely at risk for members. Who is responsible for wildfire mitigation? Homeowners are primarily responsible for wildfire mitigation. For homeowners who are building a new home, some counties may require individuals to create and implement a wildfire mitigation plan per local building and land use codes. We see that in California. We see that in Colorado. Definitely, and those are two strong states. This includes creating, defining, and maintaining defensible space around your home. By doing wildfire mitigation work, property owners can substantially increase their safety and reduce their risk. What is defensible space? Defensible space is an area around a home or building in which vegetation, debris, or combustible fuels have been cleared, treated, or reduced to slow the spread of fire away from the building. Creating a defensible space is important to improve your home's chance of surviving a wildfire. Defensible space is the area you create between your property and the grass, trees, shrubs, or any wildland area that surrounds it. Defensible space is the area you create between your property and the grass, trees, shrubs, or any wildland that surrounds it. Again, repetition. That's how I learn. Defensible space is needed to slow or stop the spread of wildfire, and it helps protect your home from catching fire. How to maintain a defensible space? California state law requires the defensible space around homes and structures to be 100 feet. Most places are 50. I think Montana uses 50 feet. Proper clearance to 100 feet dramatically increases the chance of a home surviving a wildfire. This defensible space also provides firefighter safety when protecting homes during a fire, and that is very true. So this is what we're talking about. You've got zone 1, and this one's using 30 feet, where in California it would be 100 feet. And then zone 2 is 100 feet. Now, some areas call zone 0 the home. So you may see that in a moment. So you got zone 1, zone 2, and maybe a zone 0. Zone 1 extends 30 feet out from buildings, structures, and decks. Remove all dead plants, grass, and weeds. Remove dead or dry leaves and pine needles from your yard, roof, and rain gutters. Trim trees regularly to keep branches a minimum of 10 feet from other trees. Trim trees regularly to keep branches a minimum of 10 feet from other trees. Remove branches that hang over your roof and keep dead branches 10 feet away from your chimney. This is just horse sense here. Relocate wood piles to zone 2. I remember I had a wildland fire a couple years ago, and as it came up to one cabin, the wood pile, which is right up next to the house, caught on fire. Fortunately, I got there just in time, kicked the wood pile down, got it out. I just had a rake with me. I didn't have any water with me. I was raking lines, and it did turn the side of the house black, but it didn't catch the cabin on fire. Remove or prune flammable plants and shrubs near windows. Remove vegetation and items that could catch fire from around or under decks. Create a separation between trees, shrubs, and items that could catch fire, such as patio furniture, wood piles, swing sets, etc. Zone 2. Zone 2 extends 100 feet from the building, structures, and decks. Cut or mow annual grass down to a maximum height of 4 inches. I remember I was at a place just last week, and I was staying at a motel, and they were out in the country, and literally they had grass that was over 3 foot or bushes right up at weeds up against the back door. Definitely a challenge. Create horizontal space between shrubs and trees. Create vertical spacing between grass, shrubs, and trees. Remove fallen leaves, needles, twigs, barks, cones, and small branches. You know, as you have material, which we call fuels, laying that's dead, you have a greater chance of that fuel catching on fire, it being dead and laying around. You want to keep that area raked away. So what causes wildfires? 3 conditions must be present for a wildfire to burn. And this is the same in a house fire, same exact thing. It takes 3 things to cause a fire: fuel, oxygen, and heat. Fuel, oxygen, and heat. Take one away, fire goes out. Increase one of them, fire increases. Firefighters call these 3 elements the fire triangle. Now, there's a new piece that we use, but this is the basic. When it comes to causing wildfires, it is difficult to provide one simple answer. There are many factors that contribute. Low annual rainfall, dry conditions, low humidity, we call RH, relative humidity, underbrush, lightning, down power lines, campfires, low annual rainfall. Here we go. I got a low humidity second there. Dry conditions, underbrush. I'm sorry, I have some doubles here. History has shown that high wind conditions can take a seemingly innocuous fire, even under control, and spread a fire to structures with wood siding and roofs, causing property loss. So wind is huge. We looked at the Gatlinburg fires back in 2016. It was a perfect firestorm. It was hot, there was a lot of fuel, and it was very windy. In the event of a fire, flying embers may cause the fire to spread rapidly. The flames can rapidly spread to adjacent homes by means of burning embers landing on roofs, which can spark ignition. Aside from environmental factors, oftentimes wildfires are started by people. Flying embers are the cause up to 90% of homes destroyed by wildfire. Flying embers are the cause of up to 90% of homes destroyed by wildfire. So it's not that fire climbing into the house as the number one cause that house first started on fire. It was the embers. When we think about wildfires, we generally envision huge walls of flames engulfing homes. The reality is that most homes do not ignite from direct contact with a flame front. In fact, it is estimated that 90% of homes are destroyed indirectly by wind-borne embers that are carried ahead of the fire perimeter. When heat generated by intense wildfires combined with wind, small burning embers can travel, get this y'all, several miles away from the fire perimeter. I've seen it jump roads. We've seen it jump huge rivers. And we can see it just go up to 2 miles away as it floats in the air and lands down. During a wildfire, your roof is your most vulnerable part. During a wildfire, the roof is the most vulnerable part of the home. Sparks and ignited debris can be lifted and carried by convection currents up to several miles. So the key as we look at wildland fires, be sure and keep your house, say 30 feet, definitely everything cleaned around it. Go 100 feet, make sure there's nothing that is, let me bring us back here. You want to make sure that, there's not a lot of dead plant material around your homes. Clean that area out, cut those trees back a little bit, cut the bushes back. And also some fuels may be more prone to burn: rhododendron, chaparral, mountain laurel. Those fuels are more prone. So look at your plants that are around your house that are more fire safe plants. Well, y'all, I hope this has been beneficial. I know I enjoy helping folks with fire safety just as much as I enjoy helping people with health safety.
This presentation was filmed at our 2022 camp meeting on site in British Columbia. If you would like to join for the next camp meeting, visit our events page for details: events.amazingdiscoveries.org.